Hey, what's going on there, youth pastors? Paul Turner here from the discipleproject.net. So glad to be with you today. If this is your first time viewing the channel, thank you for checking it out. If you want videos like this in your inbox on a regular basis, you want timely youth ministry information, you want strategies, you want tips, you want game ideas, all that kind of good stuff, hit that subscribe button down there, and that's exactly what you're going to get on a regular basis. So today I want to talk to you about what I believe is the 5 mistakes new youth pastors make when at camp. And so we're going to jump into that today. The first mistake I believe that youth pastors make is they ignore the camp rules. That's right. Now, how do I know this? Well, I've ignored a few camp rules in my day, such as when somebody told me not to have pillow fights, right? And I thought, well, that's dumb. You know, camp is about pillow fights. And I set it all up. We had a great scheme of things ready to go, challenges, all that kind of good stuff. And what I did not do was check pillows. So a kid took a toaster, yes, a toaster, and put it in his pillow and wound up clocking another kid and giving him a concussion. So, yeah, you say, Paul, you should have checked all the pillows. No, I should have obeyed the rules and simply said, we're not going to do pillow fights. And so if the camp that you're staying at, you want to make sure that you obey the rules. If the camp is saying, look, don't take boats out at a certain time, after a certain time, don't take the boats after a certain time. Because here's the deal. If you are ignoring camp rules, if you are instigating the ignoring of camp rules, you are sowing a seed into your kids that one day when you're making a rule, guess what? They're going to ignore your rule as well. So let's go on to number 2. The second mistake I believe new youth pastors make is not having a plan. That's right. I was told growing up and learning to be a youth pastor, listen, either you have a plan or your campers have a plan. So what is your plan then for getting kids to go to bed, stay in the cabin, all that good stuff? You got to have a plan for that, because if you don't, they have a plan for you. Now, the plan I had, let me give you a few ideas of some things that I did. My plans took different forms for different camps, but things that I would do, I had, like example, if I had kids that wanted to sneak out, and I've had kids who wanted to sneak out, well, I had a volunteer organize a sneak out. So it means like, hey, like right after, like it wouldn't be like in the middle of the night or anything, but I would let them go ahead and instigate it with my knowledge. They'd sneak out, but they'd only be allowed to go so far and for so long. And the next day, the kids would come and say, ha ha, hoo, and they'd say all this other stuff like, we got you, Paul, and, you know, have that look. They wouldn't tell me because they had to be secret about it. Otherwise, they'd get onto them. But the deal is this. I let them have that brief little sneak out experience that was already in a controlled environment. So that's just one thing that I did. Another thing I would do is I would tell kids, look, if you guys don't cause me any trouble this week, I'm ordering pizza and we have a glow in the dark party. So, you know, before you go to camp, you say, oh, okay, look, we're going to have this thing. I'm going to bring the glow sticks. And if there's a pizza place, you want to check out and see if there's a pizza place at the camp where you're staying. If there's somewhere nearby that can deliver, you can make good on that promise. So be sure to have a plan. Like, I'll give you another one. Making sure that on your last night, but you got to wear these kids out. Wear them out because they're going to test the rules the last night because you can't do anything with it. What are you going to do? You can't send them home. It's the last night. So you plan and make sure, and I would say this, you could do this for all nights, but make sure you have something like, you know, organized activities after service and after devotion time and things like that. Have your campfire, have your night games. You know, take a run, walk around the camp. And these are things you tell your volunteers. It's not something you do. You make sure all your volunteers have these clues to, you know, how to manage the group and how to make sure that kids are safe, kids are, you know, engaged, but also making it easy on the volunteers and yourself. Because if the volunteers know how to get the best from the kids, then that's what they're going to get, and it's going to be well organized. So just make sure that you have a plan. Otherwise, your kids have a plan. Now, let's go on to the third one. The third one is not setting expectations. So, and this is like before camp, but I think it's part of camp because then you have to then manage the expectations when you get there. So I believe it's fully a part of camp. Part of what I did is I made sure that I had campers and parents sign a camp covenant before camp. It had a list of those things. And if you're interested in that kind of camp covenant, I have a link down below. Just subscribe to my newsletter. You can get the camp covenant for free, and it will break it down for you. So if you've not gone to camp yet, it's a great time to get this. It's editable for your own purposes. Put your name on it, all that good stuff. And so the way, and I wasn't looking to send kids home, but it was a way for me to make sure that parents and campers feel safe. Make them feel safe, because then they know there's real rules and real consequences for those who break the rules. So it's part of the obligation of the youth pastor to make sure, look, this is a safe environment, and there's rules to this. We have to make sure that everybody feels comfortable in that setting. So make sure you have a camp covenant and set expectations for what you're doing. The next one is making idle threats. And listen, you don't want to make idle threats. You don't want to have to keep saying all through the week. You don't have to keep saying, listen, if you do that one more time, hey, listen, I'm going to talk to you one more time. Listen, if you make idle threats about sending kids home or calling parents, kids will not take, and you don't act on it, listen, kids are not going to take you seriously. They're going to test those boundaries. So if you have a rowdy bunch of kids who are pushing the boundaries, you can't afford to make idle threats, because bad behavior puts the whole camp experience in jeopardy for others. Be sure to have a process of discipline, from a warning to a phone call. And by the way, that is on the camp covenant sheet, and all the things in between, before you actually have to send a kid home, which is the last resort you want to have. In fact, you should state in no uncertain terms what it is that will actually get a kid sent home. That if you do this, you're going home. And whether that's leaving after lights out or exiting your cabin or whatever that may be, you want to make sure that kids know that so they can avoid that, right? Nobody wants to go home, and nobody wants to be taken by surprise because you suddenly said, hey, listen, you're going home. Well, why am I going home? Well, because you broke the rule. Well, I didn't know what the rule was. Well, that's part of making the covenant, is you're going to have to do that. All right, and the fifth and final way of doing this, fifth and final mistake that most youth pastors, is you're first to go to bed. Do not be the first person to go to bed. That is such a terrible idea. What happens when the cats sleep? The mice run wild. That's how that works. You have to stay awake until you are sure that most of your kids, at least the ones that you are concerned about, are asleep, because things can get out of hand. And I've seen other leaders go to sleep and they lay down in their bed or they fall asleep or whatever it is. And what happened was, I saw their kids get up and start, pranking other kids or bullying other kids, and it turned into a fight and it got ugly. So make sure you bring, youth pastor, you bring a lot of energy drinks for you and your leaders, or a coffee pot, or, community coffee where people can get a hold of that stuff and keep their energy up. Because if you don't, then people are going to be sleepy and so forth. But don't be the first person going to sleep. It's late nights. You signed up for this. You have to make sure that you are going to be able to stay awake and make sure you can control any problems that may occur. So guys, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today, hanging out with me a little bit of time today. I hope that you enjoy these 5 tips. I'd like to know from you, is there something, it's like a camp standard for you, something that said, look, this is a mistake you made as a youth pastor at a camp or something, and you say, look, leave that down below. Let's go ahead and build a little list of comments down below where people can watch this video and say, oh, wow, look, there's more mistakes. New youth, maybe it's something you did when you were a youth pastor for the first time, or the 5th time, or the 7th time, or whenever you did it. But leave that comment down below, and that will add some value to some other people who are going to watch this video. So guys, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure, if you're interested in more camp videos, well, I'm going to put some right over here, and then other videos like youth ministry videos, well, there's some right over here, and you can check those out as well. So guys, thank you so much for visiting today. Thanks for being a part, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.